But how acceptable is it really
To be single?
to say, I'm single, and truth is, I like being single, and I don't want to be in a relationship.
What are the signs that someone is not ready for a relationship?
When they think they're ready just because somebody asked them out.
Oh.
And you know what? I have to say that was me. I sure wasn't ready because all I could talk about was my past relationships. I was asking questions like, you really find me attractive?
Oh, gosh.
I was so not ready for dating at all.
Yeah.
So you have to have kind of a security in yourself, a basis to start from. And if you don't feel like you're solid in yourself, that you're still weak, you're definitely not ready to start.
I think that's a really good point. I think how you know someone's not ready is when they say they're not ready or they act like they're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes people will say, I'm not ready, and then they'll do it. They'll do it. Or you'll meet someone and they'll say, well, I'm not ready to get in a relationship. And then you start a relationship with them and wonder why they withdraw or, get a little strange with you, etc. But people intuitively often know that, but it's so hard not to take the bait.
Oh, isn't it?
It's thrilling, it's exciting, the chemistry's fun.
Yeah.
But I say when they say it, or they act like it, then you got to pay attention to that. The fault is usually in those of us who won't believe it when they say it.
People don't want to believe it, and they think that they will change that person. Well, he hasn't met me yet, or she hasn't met someone like me yet, and so they'll come around. But meanwhile, that person really, they do have a sense of, I put it out there, so later, don't come back to me because I put it out there initially. So that's a difficult one. But I think that also, you said something great in terms of you were thinking about your last relationship. So if you're pining away in your ex, if your ex is occupying so much sort of your bandwidth, you really don't have the emotional availability for somebody else. And I think it's really, important to realize that. And then the whole piece that you had mentioned in terms of your sense of self, I think sometimes people want to jump into a relationship to fill a void, especially that's a rebound too. They want to distract from the pain of the past relationship, or they just want to fill the void that they feel in them. And I say you need to be filled yourself to be able to share a fulfilling life with somebody else. So I think you have to do your own work. So you're not wanting to be rescued. There's no Cinderella fantasy here. You actually, are ready to be in a healthy, happy relationship with someone else and contribute.
The whole point of dating does have a point, it's like, how do you know you're ready? Well, ready for what?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you just want to go have fun, have dinners and go to movies and whatever, that's okay. That's one kind of dating. But in my view, dating has a purpose, and that is to as accurately and quickly as possible determine if you've got a keeper, which I'll bet you do a lot, because the whole purpose of what you're doing ultimately leads to marriage for the most of the folks you deal with, I'm sure. So I think dating has a purpose. The purpose is to lead to something purposeful and meaningful permanently. So you got to know what the heck you're shooting for.
Well, I also think that there's a real drive for all of us before we're ready necessarily to date, right? Because we're all looking for happiness. And happiness is so often found in our intimate relationships. And when, you've just broken up with someone, to your point, Jasmine, there's that hole, right? And how can you fill that hole as quickly as possible? Well, we're all kind of, programmed innately to look for relationship to fill that hole. And so we'll often look for a new primary relationship instead of realizing there's relationship with self, there's relationship with the rest of the family, there is, relationship with friends that we forget about. It doesn't fill the hole in quite the same way, but it allows us to have a safe place to explore right before we do step forward and say, sure, I'm ready to date. You asked me out.
And you're absolutely, because your relationship with someone else cannot be greater than your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
I think so. You really have to have that as a baseline to really share the kind of relationship that I think would really lead to contribute to happiness for somebody.
Okay, so there are more single people now than married, committed people.
Right.
Okay. But how acceptable is it really
To be single?
to say, I'm single, and truth is, I like being single, and I don't want to be in a relationship. Not only am I not ready now, but you know what? I don't see that in my future. I might change my mind, but the truth is, is that okay to say that? You know, I think it is. I think it's becoming more acceptable. You know, more people live alone than ever before, and a lot of them do it because they like it. They like their independence. And so maybe we should say that, you know, maybe we should be much more upfront about that, to give license to that, because I think one of the reasons you're not ready is when you're doing it because somehow there's a message that I should, instead of I like my life like this.
Yeah. Loneliness as a feeling is obviously awful. None of us here want and have enjoyed being lonely. But it can be a positive thing. If you're through the grief cycle and you've done the work you need to do, loneliness can actually be the sign that you're ready to get back out there and ready to start dating again.